Hey, what's up, guys? So I just took a trip down to Portland this weekend and back, and I found my dash cams particularly helpful, especially the rear cameras, and specifically in a hit and run that my dash cams captured, and they kind of saved the day, the fact that I had especially the rear cameras running. And so I want to go ahead and share a little bit of information about that, as well as two other encounters when I've been finding the rear camera specifically to be particularly helpful this weekend. So let's go ahead and start with the hit and run. Now, as far as that one, I was actually driving in Portland, and I found a parking spot over on the side of the road, and I was going to go ahead and pull over into the spot and back into the spot. Now, as I was pulling over on the side of the road, the car behind me decided to go nose into that spot, and I figured, oh, they didn't realize I was trying to back into the spot, and then once they realized that, they drove away. Well, as I was then backing into the spot, I noticed there were a lot of people suddenly all starting to crowd around the car behind me, which I thought was kind of weird. So I parked my car and got out. It turns out the car behind me, or the one that kind of like pulled into the spot and then drove away, had actually hit the car back behind me, that red car, and then it was a hit and run. So they hit it, realized what had happened, and then suddenly they just sped off. So it wasn't that they realized I was trying to park there, it's that they had actually hit the car that I was going to be parking in front of, and then drove away. Now, one thing that was really nice is there were a bunch of people that all came over to be like, hey, I got the license plate of the car, or I saw it was a female driver, or, kind of report information, and we wound up calling the cops and all that kind of stuff. Now, there was a little bit of confusion as far as what the license plate of the actual car was. When, the cop came by and we told him what the license plate was, it turns out the license plate didn't match the actual vehicle itself, and it turns out, I guess, either they swapped the plates, or perhaps more likely, the person who was reporting the license plate actually got it wrong. And so it was really nice to be able to pull up the dash cam footage, on the spot. I had my computer with me, and I could just pull it up on the computer, or the camera has Wi-Fi, and I could pull it up on my phone too. But to be able to pull up the footage and see right then and there exactly what the license plate was of the vehicle that just did the hit and run, and report that to the police and show them. So that was really, really helpful. That video I wound up sending to the police, and I wound up sending it to the driver, or the owner of the car that actually wound up getting hit, for insurance purposes for her. So she was really grateful as well. It was really helpful, obviously, to have the rear camera because it happened behind me, but you could say, hey, what if I've got a camera that's only recording on the front? It would stink to maybe miss the actual impact in the back, but I could still see the license plate, because everybody has a license plate on the back of their car. So as they were driving away, well, my front camera could just record the back of their car, right? Well, unfortunately, as they were speeding off, my front camera was not able to actually make out the license plate on the back of the vehicle, because at night, when there's not a lot of light, cameras typically need longer exposures to let in more light, and anything that's moving really quickly, such as a car driving away, tends to be a little bit blurrier, and it's tough to make out details such as license plates. And you could say, well, okay, maybe it was just that one particular camera. Maybe a different camera might have done a better job, which is true. Well, I currently have not one dash cam on my windshield, but 5 cameras. I don't normally do this, obviously. This isn't a normal thing, but at the moment I happen to be comparing and testing a bunch of different dash cams, and so I took a look at the video from all 5 of the dash cams on my windshield, and all 5 of them actually were unable to make out the license plate of the vehicle as it was speeding away up ahead of me. And so none of them could actually see the rear license plate. It was actually the front plate from the rear camera. As the car had kind of like pulled up behind me and kind of slowed down, they were like, whoa, maybe for like a second or so, they slowed down and kind of stopped. That was the point when I had just enough time to make out the plates on the front of the vehicle, and then they drove away. So that was an instance where the rear dash cam was really, really helpful in practice to get some relevant information in case of a hit and run. Even though it wasn't on my car, it was really helpful for reporting to the police and to the owner of the car that was actually hit. So really, really helpful to have that. Now, I guess 2 other examples I can share with you. One of them was I was driving down to Portland, and I was on the phone with my fiance. I'm just driving down the highway, and I start to change lanes, and the next thing I know, whoa! Oh my God! Holy shit!
Manual recording on.
These motorcycles speed past me. All I heard was just the boom, and I saw this flash of light in my peripheral vision, and I just quickly turned back into my lane and hit the brakes, and I could feel the brakes kind of start to lock up as the car starts to turn sideways, so I quickly corrected and, got everything back in order. It kind of scared me. And so it kind of like regained my composure, and I remember asking myself, like, okay, what the heck? first of all, like, what happened and how did I miss that, you know? I've got a habit of course, always checking my blind spot, and I always change lanes really slowly, just in case somebody, you know, in a different lane decides to come over really quick, we don't collide. So I was like, how the heck did I miss it? Did I make a mistake, or did I just not see them, or like, what happened, you know? So I went to go review the dash cam footage, and particularly the rear camera footage as well. And so kind of reviewing it, I saw that they were actually directly behind me. Then I went to go change lanes. I checked my mirror, checked my blind spot, turn signal, all that good stuff. I slowly start to change lanes, and right when I start making the lane change, that was actually when they made a lane change as well, and then hit the accelerator and just gunned it right past me. And so in this situation, I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, I did all the right things. It just happened to be kind of this timing thing where they decided to blast past me right as I started making the change. But that's definitely good to know as far as, you know, making sure you're checking things at all times. So that was really cool to see. And in this instance, I think it was more on them than on me. But in any event, it was really nice to be able to just review the dashcam footage to figure out what happened and, you know, what was going on, because, you know, in the heat of the moment, it was kind of hard to tell. So really, really helpful. And then I guess finally, one last thing where I found it to be particularly helpful. I was driving up the highway, and then all of a sudden Waze alerts me to a cop up ahead.
Police reported ahead.
I keep driving, and then sure enough, up ahead on an overpass, I see a police officer parked sideways up there. Now, usually when they're set up sideways, it's because they're wanting to shoot laser. You know, maybe they're like going like this, shooting sideways out the car, or, you know, maybe they're wanting to shoot that way. In any event, I noticed he was on the far side of the overpass, and in that case, he was actually set up to shoot drivers from behind in the rear. I've got laser jammers in the rear for protection like this, and so when I was passing, I had my hands on the kill switch for my ALP ready to kill my jammers in case he shot me, you know? And in this instance, he didn't shoot me. I'd already moved over, slowed down, all that kind of stuff, you know? But in case he did, it would have been really, really helpful because he was actually parked on the side of the overpass where my rear camera was the one that had the best view of him, and in case he did shoot me, it would have made for a cool clip, specifically with, you know, a rear laser save, you know? So as far as the rear camera, I've been finding it especially helpful. Sometimes it's just for, you know, cool radar or laser saves, that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's for really important things like a hit and run where the rear camera was actually the reason I was able to capture the license plate in the first place. So I've been finding it really helpful lately, and I just want to go ahead and share a couple instances that I saw recently as far as why it was particularly helpful. Now, as far as the cameras that I have mounted right there, you can see I have two of them. It's the Blackview DR650S and the DR750S. They're obviously the two-channel ones, so front and rear. I just did a video comparing the two cameras. You can watch that if you like. The DR650S, now that I'm back from the trip, I'm actually going to be taking out of my car and giving it away to one of my Patreon supporters. And the 750S I'm going to be keeping in my car, and I really like it as a good all-around camera for obviously front and rear protection. Kind of the whole point of this video. Good for driving mode and parking mode and good nighttime quality and all that kind of stuff, you know? So anyways, if you guys want this camera too, I'll put the link in the video description as far as where you can pick it up. It would have been helpful for the girl that got hit in the red car in the hit and run. If she was running this camera, it's really good for parking mode where in case it detects an impact, it activates the camera and records that clip. So she would have also been able to, you know, record the whole incident, you know, capture the license plate and all that kind of stuff in case I wasn't there with my camera, you know? So I really like it as a good all-around camera, front and rear, driving, parking mode, to kind of give you like complete protection all the time. So anyways, that's just a couple clips that I wanted to share with you and a couple recent experiences as far as how I've been finding this camera to be particularly useful. So yeah, I like it. I'm a fan, and I'm finding it to be pretty helpful. So anyway, cool. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Link in the video description down to the camera if you want to pick one up too. Other than that, happy driving, and I'll see you guys in the next video.